Hey, what's up, guys? Ash here. Been a little bit. I've been fighting off Uncle COVID, so sorry about that. And of course, I hope that you guys are staying safe. I hope that your families are well. Of course, today we are talking about Heixing Sweeper. This is such an amazing class, but I do consider it the advanced class between his two promoted classes. Ranger is very much a better kind of newer player option and very newer friendly. Sweeper is much more advanced, and so if you are going to take that path, or you are a veteran and you're interested in trying it out, let's hop right into it and let's see how it works.
At a high-level overview, Sweeper is the premier dedicated range DPS class offering only one thing: overwhelming offense. This is more or less the physical version of Black Mage, and in the past it naturally encompasses the glass cannon archetype that is found in so many games. I've actually designed the Sweeper build I'm sharing with you guys today to have actual real defenses, and I think that's what will really stand out about it. But let's get more into the offense before we touch on that. What Sweeper truly excels in difference from Ranger, is the pure damage. Heixing is able to customize his weapons so heavily that eventually he upgrades from the guy that is primarily about taking down soft targets into the guy that's just taking down all targets. Right here, we're actually going to see his class mastery at work, an ability called Mop Up. Once Heixing no longer sees any remaining enemies left to kill, he's actually going to receive an action point back from Mop Up. This, of course, in tandem with one shot, one kill, allows him to essentially get 2 points back, allowing him to move, kill, move, kill. This allows him to solo pretty much any map in the game. Pretty insane, and this was kind of my warm-up for the 52 Violent Cruel Challenge solo run that I did with Heixing earlier. As you can see, he's just plowing through, and this map starts with 10 bosses and 94 beasts, and you can see it's already down to 8 and 76, so he's killed about a quarter of the map already, and this is all within the same turn. Absolutely insane, and this is very much a kind of Sweeper thing to get used to. At the heart of Sweeper is, of course, Sweeping Fire itself. Sweeping Fire is probably the most ridiculous offensive ability in the game. Any veteran player can tell you that. But it gets particularly devastating in Sweeper's hands because of the massive amount of increased damage. Right here, we're fighting the Skull team, and you can see Heixing is slowly picking them apart through an ability called clipping. This is actually not an ability, it's more like a play style that I've learned to use, and I want to share it with you guys because it's very useful for basically multi-hitting without needing to multi-hit. So we're going to go ahead and slow this down into the very beginning like it was before. So the Skull team has Impulse Fields, it has Skull Seal, Skull Crasher has, Sand Castle, which avoids death. So there's so many things that are going on here defensively that you kind of have to understand from a veteran perspective here. And so this clipping ability or master technique that I'm giving you guys, what you want to do is just get enough to get a one-shot, one kill, enough to refund your action point. So notice right here, I could have just shot this entire thing. I'd have killed all these rangers, but all of the Skull team would still be alive. So I'm gonna slowly clip people without killing others, right? So right here, we've taken out 2 of the rangers, but more importantly, we got Cheche's Impulse Fields, we got Skull Slasher's Skull Seal, we got Skull Eater's Skull Seal, right? And so then on the next one, we're going to clip just this ranger to make sure we get the 1 action point. But notice I'm not hitting this one. Notice I'm not hitting this one. So on this next wave, obviously Cheche dies, Skull Eater dies, the ranger for the 1 action point dies. We hit Skull Piercer in the back here and trigger his Impulse Fields. Skull Slasher dies. We trigger Impulse Fields for Skull Crasher, right? And so we're going to keep clipping. Notice I'm just getting this one and saving him for very last, right? And so now Skull Piercer lost his Skull Seal. Skull Crasher lost his Skull Seal. And so, obviously we're going to be using this guy, but I need to refresh Sweeping Fire's cooldown there. So again, you know, we're saving that one action point. During that wave, you can see even Skull Piercer goes down, who can normally take 3 hits, and then of course Skull Crasher, who's the toughest of the entire Skull team, just gets a shot at the end there. But make no mistake, this technique is amazing, and I highly recommend that you guys practice it. It will improve your sweeper game immensely. One of the issues that Sweeper runs into is a massive amount of energy drain. You'll find that his vigor is almost non-existent at all times. Even from his basic attacks to, you know, his more advanced attacks, he burns through vigor like it's nothing. At the moment, he's currently 31 out of 97. And we're going to move over here and do a Sweeping Fire, and that's pretty much going to put him down to 1 vigor, which is just totally insane. You can see the vigor bar completely depleted at this point. Thankfully, he's right in time for overdrive, or overcharge, but just, you know, kind of keep in mind, and this kind of gave me the idea of not using his standard build out, because either you can do like a Roar of Victory build or you can do an Awaken build, but you need overcharge because he just can't upkeep that kind of vigor for very long. You could, I guess, follow him around with Ray as well, use like a vigor potion, but make no mistake, his vigor gets destroyed on high intensity maps. Aside from a massive vigor drain, Sweeper also suffers from a massive cast delay. This kind of power obviously takes quite a toll no matter what you do. Besides rapid fire, Sweeper has no natural way of reducing its own cast delay. And this is kind of where Recoil Control comes in, keeping AT low through repeated shooting abilities. So if you'll notice there, you know, we took a shot at a sniper, and when we go to do a Sweeping Fire here, even though Sweeping Fire is going to take some AT, notice that Recoil Control is triggering now and giving basically 20 action time back. So you can see that Heixing is currently at 81 action time, and if we kill this random ranger with just a single shot, no cast delay, he's going to get that 20 from Recoil Control, going from 81 down to 61. Of course, mixing in other abilities that do take action time is going to make this flip-flop, but you can see that it's his way of kind of keeping things down. So right now he's at 69, and now he's at 49. Killing this last butcher within his vision will take him from 49 down to 36, basically. Also important to note, so he finished his turn with that. This is a brand new turn. Every brand new turn resets Recoil Control. So right here, we're going to take a shot at Athad, and we kill him with luck, right? But notice his action time at 73, and you notice there's no Recoil Control triggering off of here. It'll only be on the second attack of every turn, and it's something you kind of have to get used to. Similar to Ranger, Sweeper's quote-unquote defenses come in the form of a short-distance responsive called Close Suppressive Fire, or what I'll refer to as CSF. CSF can get amazing bonuses from mastery sets like I'm Ready, which guarantees that CSF hits no matter what, even through auto dodge mobility or Darkness Hunter. It can further be improved through the mastery set I Am Legend, which reduces your action time even further and can stack with Recoil Control. Normally, Close Suppressive Fire costs 30 action time to perform. 20 can be shredded off from Recoil Control, and 20 can be shredded off from I Am Legend for a net gain of 10 action time, which is pretty awesome. The difference, of course, for Close Suppressive Fire versus Overwatch for Ranger is actually the distance. And, you know, since it's such a short distance, I do recommend that you put him, like, if he's going to be on the front row, put him just behind, let's say, a Battle Mage where he can still get cover. You guys can see that right here, he's just kind of hiding behind Irene's Battle Mage, but he's also providing cover for her at the same time. Close Suppressive Fire can do way more damage than Overwatch ever could, but requires him to be very close to the front row. Ultimately, the backbone of Sweeper comes from Heixing's ability to customize his own gun. There are so many masteries that can change how he fights, but primarily one of the sets you'll want is High Velocity Armor Piercing Bullet. This set includes the amazing Firearm Interchangeability, which has a centered focus for Sweeper over Ranger. Firearm interchangeability will increase the attack ratio on any ability by at least 5%, which is then upgraded to 8% from the high velocity set. Stacking this can lead to some amazing results of damage. You know, Heixing generally kills soft targets easily, but has a tougher time usually with harder targets, especially on Ranger. This completely changes when running firearm interchangeability. This also stacks, of course, with flat damage bonuses such as This Is My Gun or Upgraded Armor Piercing Bullet, and you start seeing even heavy damage from Heixing. We'll actually be spending some time in the stats page going over this more in detail. And we have the abilities overview. So you only have one choice for his basic ability, but it is good to know that Mind's Eye Shot, this is what you'll be using for your close suppressive fires. So if you're interested in making a very dedicated close suppressive fire build, you'll want to center around Mind's Eye Shot, as it is all of his responsives as well as all of his counterattacks. But more importantly, Mind's Eye Shot is one of the best basics in the game, giving a natural 50% hit chance bonus. This is absolutely insane, and of course it has a very standard 100% attack power. Can't really go wrong with that. For general abilities, I recommend Check Fire, Sweeping Fire, and Sprint. The abilities I don't recommend are more or less for obvious reasons. Put Distance, this is terrible, mostly because it's a damage type blunt. This does not synergize with any of Heixing's abilities anywhere. It's intended to knock back a boss and maybe stun them against a wall and increase their action time. It sounds good in theory, but there's much better alternatives if there's a boss that's actually in range of that. And then for Shooting Spree is not bad. I do recommend this for Ranger just because it has 4 general ability slots. But I'm not going to recommend it for Sweeper simply because Check Fire is much better. So of course we have Sprint. Sprint is nuts, and particularly interesting is that Heixing's Sprint, or his move ability, deactivates responsive attacks. This is particularly useful if you have, let's say, the previous turn Wei comes in and melees Heixing, and he does live. If you were to move again, he would get Forestallment, and this is where Sprint would be a perfect ability. And then of course Check Fire. Check Fire is awesome for bosses. This lets him keep his distance while increasing action time. This is just an amazing ability. I would just say keep in mind that it has an 80% attack power ratio and 100% speed, and we're not going to go into firearm interchangeability until the next section. But, you know, it does combine the speed factor, so it adds that damage, but it does subtract 20% attack power, as well as a negative 20% crit chance. But still amazing ability, and intended generally for bosses and hitting a target twice in a row with, like, let's say, rapid fire. And then finally, of course, Sweeping Fire. This is one of the best abilities in the game, if not the best offensive ability in the game. Massive Cone, cuts through walls, cuts through enemies, makes everything butter, especially on Sweeper. This is such an insane ability. And interesting to note with Sweeper, this will go down to about 1 cooldown and even less depending on the Masters that you get. So just totally insane. And then, of course, for his SP abilities, I'm going to recommend Annihilation Shot and Dash with Gunfire, although Field of Zero is not bad on him. But I don't know. Field of Zero is so kind of janky that it's just not worth using most of the time. But Dash with Gunfire, this is very interesting in that in case you need to move around with him. Important to note the cast delay for Dash with Gunfire is not too bad, and it does increase the critical hit damage by quite a bit. So if you need a little bit more oomph for maybe a boss or something, this is very good. But in general, use this to move to a good location while also dealing damage. And then of course Annihilation Shot, one of the most insane abilities in the game. It is 11 consecutive attacks, which is totally insane, especially since all of these are piercing shooting. It has 13 range here. And of course, I would say the only thing you should keep watch for is the decreased hit chance. It's very odd to go from, you know, you're doing Mind's Eye Shot where you've got a bonus 50% to Annihilation Shot where you're losing 25%. So, you know, it's not uncommon for you to go from 100% hit chance to a 25% chance just because of the difference between the 50% in Mind's Eye and the minus 25% in Annihilation. And this is part of the reason why hit chance is actually quite a big thing for him. But we'll get into that in just a short minute. All right, and we have the stats, individual masteries, and equipment page. There's a lot to go over here, and we will be touching on firearm interchangeability finally. So let's start with his class mastery, Mop Up. You're going to recover an AP if all enemies within your sight are out of action. And this is very important because expert players will be able to adjust their vision to have limited sight for hazing in order to gain back 2 action points as necessary. This can lead to such amazing expert play, and I highly recommend this. And it's basically mandatory to learn how to play Sweeper. Also important to note, Heixing is a spirit user, and this means that he has the possibility of getting hit chance increase as well as block shred increases. And for the first time ever, we are going to be taking an awaken build. I don't normally do awaken builds, but for Sweeper, it's just a natural fit, and we'll get into that shortly here. For individual masteries, I actually enjoy all 3 of these. All 3 of these are very good. However, for Sweeper in particular, I'm not going to recommend Mad Dog. This is kind of like a poor man's Roar of Victory. It's only an increase by 10. You know, if you think like Elisa with her Death Blow, it's increased by 20. Roar of Victory by standard amount is about 25 or so. This would be good had we not be using a Awaken build. So I don't recommend this. Road of Bitter Life, and this is going to be very interesting. So you're going to reduce action time by 10 if you take damage from an adversary. Believe it or not, the defenses that I'm going to be giving you guys, Heixing will be able to eat damage just fine. So this is actually feasible. Now, I would never recommend this on Ranger for a lot of reasons, mostly because if you take damage... You know, on Ranger, a lot of times you're using cover move and you're just dodging everything. But this will be the first time where I actually recommend Road of Bitter Life. However, I prefer, and I think everybody else will also prefer, Precision Fire as a whole. It's going to increase his crit damage, and you know, Heixing traditionally does have damage issues as a whole, and we're going to try and work on that by using Precision Fire. And of course, critical hit chance up by 10. Can't really go wrong with that. All right, so that goes over class, spirit, and personal mastery. So let's get into his stats. At 2,000 health, he's really not bad, and once you guys see his defenses in action, you'll definitely understand that Heixing can take a hit now, and I don't recommend that you take like kind of the giant killer lowered health route because of this. Since we are using Awaken, Vigor doesn't really matter, and so 80 Vigor, there's no real reason to kind of stack this anymore. So you can use exactly the gearing choices that you want to use. Same thing with Vigor Recovery. You can see we're running about 350 SP, which is pretty high. Obviously, this is an Awaken build, and we're going to be doing a fair amount of block shred. We're not going full ham to where we're doing like 500 or 600 Spirit SP. This is just enough to cover, I'd say, 90% of the mobs in the game. So that's about where we'll be at for that. Attack power, very important for him. You know, we'll be going over this, but you know, at worst, the only issue you'll have is some damage on the toughest tanks and targets like that. Hit chance, this is actually not that important because we're going to be running Extreme Will, which is going to double his hit rate from Spirit SP. So I would not worry too much about hit chance. Crit chance, I'm currently running 75% here. Heixing's Sweeper has a mastery called Excitement, which is going to give you a flat 30% crit chance just for getting an action point returned. So he's actually at about 105 once you've killed the first mob, so you won't have to worry about keen sense issues. And then for crit damage, we're somewhere, I don't know, 332 basically here, which is very high for his Sweeper. And then reasonable armor, not so good resistance, and block and dodge can actually be played with to where he can tank for you guys, which is pretty insane. So let's get into the gearing. So let's, there's a lot to go over here. So let's go into firearm interchangeability. So firearm interchangeability is going to increase the ability point damage of your abilities by 5% per modification. And so this is actually going to be upgraded to 8% based off of the armor piercing bullet mastery set that I mentioned to you guys earlier. So at best, let's say sweeping fire, I showed you guys without modification in the abilities overview. So let's just say mind's eye shot. So it will be a flat 100%, but notice down at the bottom, ability reinforced mastery, firearm interchangeability, high velocity armor piercing bullet, and piercing shot. Now it's 3 times the 8% or 124% total attack power. And you're going to see a difference between sweeping fire and mind's eye shot. You're going to see a difference between check fire and mind's eye shot. And that is because on sweeping fire, for example, we have gun remodeling. Gun remodeling takes a cooldown point off of all abilities. So, instead of sweeping fire being 2 cooldown, it's now 1 cooldown. The reason why it's not affecting mind's eye shot is because mind's eye shot is his basic ability and has no cooldown to begin with. So you're not going to get that bonus. Same thing with, let's say, the indigo black iron leather shoes. So right over here, this is giving a cast delay of 20% reduction on all attack abilities. This is not affecting mind's eye shot because there's no cast delay on mind's eye shot to begin with, because again, it's his basic ability. However, there is cast delay on check fire, there is cast delay on sweeping fire, there is cast delay on annihilation shot. Same thing with the cooldowns. They all feel that cooldown, and so that's why you're seeing that bonus. Keep in mind, check fire is not 100% attack power. Its base is actually 80%. So it's actually getting a bonus 48% attack power, just like you're seeing here with sweeping fire. And this can go as high as about 180 to 200 or so. However, that doesn't mean it's naturally better. You still have to kind of build out a well-rounded fighter to make sure that they do well regardless of the combat situation. Anyway, with that in mind, you'll notice that on the gearing, these little pieces such as the black iron leather shoes with the cast delay is going to affect that type and give you that 8% firearm interchangeability. Same thing with the coat of strategist, reduce cast delay by 15%. You could also, so you can see sweeping fire is at 148 attack power ratio right now, right? The Dunamis S is not actually changing firearm interchangeability. However, the BA 200 will, because it has another cast delay stuck on it. So if we were to change that from the 148, you can see now it's at 156. And if you read down in the ability reinforced mastery, you'll see it down there. So if you really wanted to check if it's actually affecting your gun remodeling and all your customization, just look down in the ability reinforced mastery. So if you don't have a good Dunamis S, I would recommend the BA 200. It has so many good abilities. It's got the speed tacked on it. It's got very, very recovery, even though it's not going to affect our Awaken build. It's got the cast delay decrease. So as a whole, it's very good. Just notice the difference in the attack power. It's pretty close to 200, which is almost the same as the muscle training. Absolutely insane. And so I don't use it here, but it's certainly excellent if you're just starting on sweeper. This is also, keep in mind, a level 40 machine pistol crafted. So you can get this very early in the game, and I really think you guys will see a lot of use of this up until you get, kind of a very good legendary that you want to replace it with. I do recommend the coat because of the cast delay. And important to note on coats, the best prefix you can get offensively is going to be strategist. Coats have very different prefixes, and it's important for you guys to kind of take a look at what you're aiming for. So, on here, Abyss, you can get some speed and some health, which is not bad. Strategist is going to get your hit, crit, and attack power and speed. So, obviously, Strategist is what you really want to be going for, but a lot of times you'll see Soul Guardian, Spirit Guardian, Starlight Guardian. These are all block and dodge chances, right? And so, if you wanted to, you could actually do a kind of tank sweeper with this Heixing build. However, you still want to stay true to its core, which is he is a DPSer, and he is an amazing DPSer at that. I opted for the bracelet. He's going to have enough health to easily take damage, and I'm going to be showcasing his defenses here shortly after we get into the mastery board. I do recommend the shoes. The Castellet is just too hard to give up. So, between the coat and the shoes, that's going to be 35. If you included the BA 200, that would be a flat 50%. off of all of your castellets. So Annihilation Shot, that's normally 100, would be go down to 50. I'm using about 35% castellet, so it's at 65. And from there, at 50, you could actually put on Rapid Fire to bring all castellets down to 0. However, I think you guys are going to really enjoy the build that I've set up here, so I'm kind of saving that there. And then Golden Mane, this is going to increase your total SP by 100. This is excellent for the block shred that he's going to need, and we'll get into that in just a sec. All right, and we have the Mastery board. This is the Parabellum build. For those of you that are big fans of kind of John Wick, in the third movie, the owner of the Continental, Winston, actually says "Civis Pacem Parabellum," which means in Latin, if you want peace, prepare for war. And he kind of says this to John as he's leaving, if I remember right. But who doesn't love John Wick? I mean, come on, man. Like, anyway, I just thought Eddie Gamer would totally love this, and I don't know. Anyway, so as always, feel free to pause, take a look, take a gander, see what you would keep, see what you would throw out. For our core offensive masters, we're of course be taking high velocity armor piercing bullet, and this is kind of Heixing's backbone of damage, and that's mostly because, of course, firearm interchangeability. You saw there that mine's going from 100 to 148% attack power. Again, you can stack this even higher. However, you will lose out on something that I've built out for you guys. And again, the difference between my build and many other builds is going to be you will have real world defenses that we're going to get into here shortly. However, this is the damage. It's also going to increase his flat damage to targets within 8 tiles. On top of that, it's also going to give you armor piercing bullet, which is going to allow you to do armor break. Right now, robots and machines are very big in the end game, so this is a perfect ability to go on him. And then, of course, rifling reinforcement. This is amazing because it's decreasing that distance hit chance penalty by 50%. So all of these work so well. Gun remodeling reduces cooldowns of all shooting attack abilities by 1. How awesome is that? And this is just such a perfect set. We're also going to be taking Extreme Will. This is going to change the effect of the Spirit SP to multiply by 2. So normally, this is 0.1 hit chance increase per 1 Spirit SP, or 10% hit chance per 100 SP. Now, keep in mind, we are, of course, running 350% SP. So this is going to send your hit chance through the roof. You will not have any issues with hit chance here because of this, and I particularly love that. Not even on, let's say, 47 Violent, where you're aiming at spiders on web. It's really insane and highly recommend it. This is also going to cover down on Destrons and whatnot. And then equivalently, with the hit chance increase to 0.2, you're also going to have Sharp Spirit, which is going to be his block shred increase. So again, at 0.2, at 350% Spirit SP is a flat 70%, I want to say. So, you're going to be doing 70% block shred to all targets, which is going to reduce most targets in this game, I'd say at least 90%, down to 0 or, like 5 or 6 or 7, like let's say with the White Clowns. And then, of course, we are going to be taking one shot, one kill. This is particularly important because this is going to trigger Heixing's excitement ability. Recovering an action point will trigger excitement every single time, and it is kind of mandatory for a sweeper. Of course, you can go off of his Mop Up mastery, but really being able to fire it off and getting it immediately, once you see this huge pack, that extra excitement's going to put him to 100% crit chance, which is going to deal with all your keen sense enemies. And for core defensive masteries, we're going to be taking Overflowing Spirit. Naturally, we're doing an Awakened build where Heixing will be in permanent overcharge, more or less, and this is a natural fit for his defenses. Sweeper actually has no defensive masteries, and you can pull on base defense from Gunman, and that's literally it. And so that's part of the reason why Sweeper is not generally touched and why this build is so good. So, of course, Overflowing Spirit is going to give you damage reduction by 50%. This is just totally insane, and the numbers that this calculates into makes him so difficult to kill. On top of course, we're taking Physical Resistance 3. This is probably not as well known with our newer players, but this is one of the best abilities in the game right now due to the Drifter Clowns being more or less all physical damage. And so this is going to individually, this is going to increase your blunt and piercing resistance, slashing resistance, and as a whole, this is going to get you out of, let's say, like bleeding effects and things caused by those by themselves a lot quicker than they would normally. But this additional 50% is going to add into Overflowing Spirit for a massive 100% damage taken reduction, and it is so freaking good right now. All right, guys, we're going to do a quick defensive showcase here. Here we are on 50 Violent, and you can see Heixing's all alone. He's literally been sticky spider web, so he's got block and dodge right on him right now. He's got 4 stacks of armor break. He just got some weapon break from Sanson. But notice the damage that's being dealt. Sanson here did a total of, I don't know, 12 or so, 10 damage, whatnot. That's enhanced Schwartz for a whopping 1. And this is the combination of Overflowing Spirit with Physical Resistance 3, along with Indomitable Will. You will actually get use out of Indomitable Will on Heixing, which is just totally insane. His 1/3 threshold there will realistically come into play. Here's Schwartz. Schwartz does 3 or 4 damage. And it's just such a massive amount of damage reduction that the only damage you'll really take is from poison. It's the only way he really gets down this low. And I love this because it allows Sweeper to actually be up at the front and you don't have to worry about him nearly as much as before. All right, and for the core support masteries, of course, we're going to be taking Awaken. This is absolutely mandatory. Originally, I designed it this way as a way to get around his vigor issues, but it's become so much more from that, Overflowing Spirit with the damage reduction, Extreme Will to guarantee hit rate, Sharp Spirit to shred block. It just feeds into each other so well. And can't stress this enough. And also important to note that this is going to give you your overcharge duration as well as increasing your maximum SP. So there's so many good abilities coming from here, and it just synergizes so well. We're also going to be taking I Want More. This, of course, is going to be your action time reduction. Normally, Sweeper has massive AT, and like you guys saw earlier with Recoil Control, normally Recoil Control is a 10 AT decrease. I Want More is going to push that to 20, as well as give you an upgrade to Ruthless Shot. This is actually going to allow it so you get a cooldown reduction for putting out more than 2 target abilities, or more than 2 targets. So if you guys remember on the Skull team there, I was doing back-to-back sweeping fires, and that's because he was taking out 2 targets at a time for each sweeping fire. Just totally nuts ability, and it really kind of just synergizes with Excitement, which is totally awesome. Ruthless Shot is great for hit chance, and then of course Recoil Control along with Piercing Shot for bleeding effect. But as a whole, this is so good. All right, and let's get into the alternative masteries before we get to the showcase. So naturally, Mutant is amazing on him. Often forgotten on Ranger is the Ranger's class Mastery Wildlife, naturally protecting you from all the fire, ice, mist, electricity, poison found through most end-game maps. Sweeper doesn't have this luxury, and so as a whole, this is a great alternative to gain easy buffs while kind of protecting Heixing from the elements. Also, base defense. Base defense is such a good ability, just didn't really have room for it on this board. I chose to go with Argonaut for many reasons. This is going to increase your overcharge duration, which he's going to stay in the entire game. This is going to increase your SP generation. This is going to double your luck chance, and you'd be amazed how often luck goes off with the increase from Argonaut. It says about 14%. I would say realistically, it's closer to 25. Every 4 turns at a minimum. For me, probably feels like every 3 turns, but really, this is such a nuts ability. But really, base defense is awesome. You could totally take out Argonaut, remove Indomitable Will, and have base defense. And as a whole, this will just increase your block chance and be very consistent defensively. And then, of course, some of his actual sweeper abilities, you'll notice that I did not choose to go with the close suppressive fire route. I Am Legend and I Am Ready are both of his amazing close suppressive fire abilities, with I Am Legend being his action time reduction, and I'm ready guaranteeing that it hits, even through auto dodge mobility and all that jazz. So these are obviously very good and great for a CSF buildup. However, I think that if you really want to do reactionaries, Ranger is the better choice with Overwatch. Um, and then rapid fire, of course, rapid fire is nuts. This is going to give you a 50% cast delay. The reason why this is not so good is it is going to take 2 ability slots. And I promise you, if you try to build all this in with this, it's just not going to work. I've remodeled it hundreds of times, and it just doesn't have the room to fit. And I'd much rather regain the action time via his recoil control and keep it down through there than actually have rapid fire it itself and ruin the board. And trust me, if you guys ever take a chance to try it, you'll see it on there. And then finally, surprisingly, if you go the opposite direction with action time where you don't do any cast delay, Can't Wait Anymore is amazing. This is going to, if you get to 200 action time, at any point, you're going to take your turn right away, which honestly, if you have 0 cast delay reduction, Annihilation Shot alone is 100. Let's say that you have, I don't know, a standard action time, maybe 50, 48, or 50. That's 150 right there. You do a sweeping fire, you're at 180. You do another sweeping fire in the same turn, and you're already at 200. And I actually kind of showcased this in my solo run of 52 Violent Cruel Challenge with Heixing. This is certainly very good. You just have to go the opposite direction of wanting cast delay. Very odd and very much like kind of an expert player thing to do, but it certainly has its time and place. All right, guys, and now we have the Parabellum Showcase. This is so nuts. Of course, we're on 50 Violent, I think on Cruel with HRHR, and we have Heixing kind of going for an assassination attempt. I do this sometimes just to see how good one of my builds might be. And so Heixing, of course, is slowly making his way there. He's keeping his action time low, so you can see recoil control has him down to basically the base amount. And between recoil control and best condition at 36, at 26 AT, I expect to move him and basically get up again. Unfortunately, somehow, Schwartz here is up before Heixing, and that's just bad timing on my part. But notice that he's moving, and he's in an open spot, which of course means that he is going to do jumping slash. And this is, of course, one of the most feared things in the game, even for tank classes, right? So this is where Sweeper's defenses are really going to come in Parabellum. So he hits first for a 258, which gets blocked, and then he crits for a whopping 399 for a total of, I don't know, 650 damage or so. This is, of course, normally a complete death sentence. If you have impulse fields, he's going to die. If you have second heart, he's going to die and come back. If you have impulse fields with second heart, he's still going to die and come back. But, make no mistake, then his defenses are completely gone. Now, at 2,000 health, he's taken out maybe, 1/3 of Heixing's total amount of health. Now, of course, Heixing's up next, and that gives him, he actually gains luck from Argonaut, right? And so, now he gets to return the fire. And mind you, Schwartz is not EMP'd. Schwartz is not, has taken any armor break. And, he just unloads and kills him immediately. This is just unheard of for a sweeper class to be able to take the damage from Schwartz while also giving it right back. And if you guys actually check some of the damage here, pretty insane. So, yes, he is in luck, which means he's going to guarantee criticals. But notice the block percentage. 100% chance to hit. This is extreme will at work, right? Because normally with Destrons, you might have this like 50 or 60% chance, 100% chance to hit. So extreme will, amazing. Block chance, 27. This is Sharp Spirit at work, shredding, I don't know, 70, 80% amount of block shred. And just imagine if he didn't get luck here at, let's say, 25% block rate off of 11 hits from an Annihilation Shot. That means 2 to 3 hits will get blocked. The others will most likely critical due to his massive amount of crit chance. So even if he hadn't had luck here, he would have completely shredded Schwartz. And interesting to note, notice the stacking armor break. So you see the 1200, 1437, I think this is 1600 or 1800, 1985, and then of course the cap 2163. So even if he hadn't had luck, he still would have killed Schwartz in one. How insane is that?
All right, that wraps up this video. Hopefully you guys learned something. The difference between my build and a lot of other builds is that this one has real defenses. I love that, and because Sweeper has no actual class abilities for defense, the defense hasn't really ever been there, and that's probably why you haven't seen many players ever use Sweeper. Maybe you tried it out once or twice, and yeah, he did the damage, but then he just died. So this is such a good kind of alternative for him, and it really allows Sweeper to shine, and you can get close, and you can even use this in such a way that you would do close suppressive fire build too if you wanted, which I think is just so cool. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitch and YouTube, and until next time.